If your ice cream gets eaten, your happiness gets depleted. But joy is a choice. I have Jesus, and that's why I can rejoice. That's enough.
It's hard to love others sometimes.
People are sinners. So.
If we're struggling to do that, and if we're not doing that, we're not loving God, which was really challenging.
Ryan's a cool guy. We love you. But
we spent the night before our final Old Testament exam. Yeah. We spent 5 hours cleaning. So the entire time we just blasted anime music at max volume on my speaker.
Yeah, and just
for 5 hours straight. Welcome back to Bible Institute Banter.
I'm Wilson.
Well, I was going to say, this is episode 3.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Episode 3. He's Wilson. I'm Andrew. Episode 3. It's been the longest since we've recorded an episode.
Yes.
It's been busy. We just got back from
Christmas break.
Yeah.
So we have from November to January 9th, say the 9th. So we're just going to cover up 2 Christmas breaks. So the end of second semester is going to be this podcast. Yeah. So first off, a very cool shout out.
We made a mistake last episode and we had our banner. We had Dr. Wendell Calder on it. But we forgot to mention Alex Marston and his Instagram page.
Yes, the Wendell Calder fan page on Instagram. So
go check him out.
Yes. You're welcome, Alex.
Sorry for not getting the shout out last episode.
Yep. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So let's get into it.
Yes.
We got a lot to cover. We're gonna try to shorten the episode. We're gonna try to aim for an hour and a half. Last time it went a bit long. Our bad. So we tried to plan better this time.
Yeah.
And yeah. So last time we ended off on
just before Revelation. What was that?
Yeah, just before we talked about the Quebec trip. So we went on that.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
So we drove 8 hours to Sherbrooke, the Sherbrooke campus. And then we just combined student bodies. So it was one big Canadian Word of Life student body, which was crazy.
And I got to practice my French a little bit. Not as much as I wanted to, because a lot of the time we were hanging out with English
people. Yeah.
Everyone from this campus, we were always hanging out with the French students, and most of them spoke English. So we just defaulted to English usually so that the majority of people could understand.
Yeah. What did we do while we were there?
It was a blast.
Yeah.
We vibed with the French students. Yeah. We didn't want to leave.
It was pretty fun. I tried poutine for the first time, the squeaky cheese and the gravy, so it was good.
I did not, because I have a gluten and soy allergy, so I love poutine though.
Yeah, it was very good. What else did we do? We had the battle of the campuses, and Owen Sound came on top. So
it was pretty much they'd name a category, and then we had to send up people for that category, but we didn't know what exactly it meant.
Yeah.
So it could be face off.
Yeah. One of them I think was like acting, and then they did like a mini skit.
Yeah. And I kind of carried the team on that one.
Was pretty good. That was pretty good.
And we won. We came home with the dove.
Yeah. It was sick. It was very good. What else did we do while we were there? We studied Revelation.
Yep.
So all of our we had a couple theology classes, but all of it was in person with Mr. Ward, who came with us. So we learned Revelation while in Quebec,
which we'll talk about next.
Soon.
But part of the reason, why we were at Quebec, they do something called Folie Lunaire, which is in English it's reverb.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much an all-nighter where they get how many?
Hundreds of youth.
Hundreds, yeah.
6 to 8. I don't know the exact range, but 600 to 800 youth together for an all-nighter.
Yeah,
which is
it was at McGill University in Montreal. It was sick. I was still injured, so I was hobbling out on crutches all night. But I was helping out with the Smash Bros tournament at the start.
I was directing French people on where to go because I speak English, and it was really funny. I'd be like, "Hello, sorry, I only speak English. This way." But it was pretty sick. The Quebec students had prepared a mime that they did, and
which was awesome.
Yeah,
it was really good.
There was a speaker. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, like 43, at least 40. 40, I think it was 43, if I remember correctly. Kids came to know Christ as their savior, or like they went up to the altar call, which was awesome.
Which was really cool.
Because in Quebec, that's kind of unheard of.
Yeah, last year they had 6. Yeah. And so, like, there's the percentage of people saved in Quebec is way less. And so that was really encouraging to the students and the people in Quebec, which was really cool to see.
Yeah.
So they served pizza, and then they just had games. So they had like volleyball and basketball and soccer and archery tag and bubble ball and hockey. And so I don't know. My job was security, which was sick. I was like, what is that word? And so I just walked around and the places where students weren't supposed to be and was kicking them out, and it was really fun. It's like, hey, you're not supposed to be here. And then so that was fun.
Yeah, I helped with the Smash Bros tournament. So we got there, and one of the switches that they had didn't have any of the characters unlocked. So the first few hours of like at Folie Lunaire was spent unlocking characters.
That's pretty good.
But yeah, partway through the night, it was like 3 a.m. or something. My leg wasn't feeling great. I was tired. And there wasn't much for me. There was already 2 guys at the Smash Bros spot. And I like play Smash Bros, but there are a lot of French kids. And at 3 a.m., the French part of my brain was not working. So like someone would speak French to me, and I would just be like, I tried to like speak French back. I just couldn't. So I would go to English. And it was hard interacting with some of the kids. I tried the best I could. I think I interacted with a couple. Just like asked some questions. Yeah, it was cool. But then because I kind of left that because I was super tired and I wasn't like really being stimulated. And they had some people doing video. And one of the students there, Blue Moo, shout out Blue Moo.
Yeah.
We miss you.
Yes.
Yeah. It was like one of his first times doing video or something. And I'd done video, but I just couldn't because I was injured. So I kind of walked around with him and then gave him pointers and tips. And I felt much more awake because I was like being stimulated. So like for the rest of the night until like 6 or 5.
Yeah, we entered the car at 6:30 a.m. Drove to the church to meet up with.
There it is. Sorry about that.
Oh,
I moved in and unplugged.
Oh, okay. So we drove to a church at 6:30. We left the church at 7 to come back home, and we got home at like 4 or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. But pulling an all-nighter and then being confined to a minivan, sheesh.
But once I like started doing something that was more stimulating, I started to wake up more, and I got like really hyper because I'm used to pulling like really late nights, like editing and stuff, and I'm kind of irresponsible with my sleep schedule. So I can have a lot of energy on very little sleep. Yeah. And like Arabella, one of the other students who like doesn't stay up ever, she was like
crying.
Yeah, she's crying at the end of the all-nighter.
Well, I think some of those people, that was the first all-nighter they pulled.
Yeah.
So it was my first all-nighter I've pulled.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's not my first all-nighter. But no, it was great.
It was fun to serve the Lord in that type of manner where it's like I've done VBSs and stuff, and I've done recharges in summer camps, which are more like a marathon versus a sprint. And this is just it was only 12 hours of ministry. Like it's just a sprint. So that was that was really fun.
So yeah, I had a lot of energy, and then we really didn't want to leave the French students. Like we connected so well with them. We just had an awesome time. Like every time we interacted, we just like, I couldn't stop myself from laughing. Like it was a blast. Like it was awesome.
It was sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were
like staying up late till like 1 or 12, just talking with the French guys in the hallway, trying not to keep Orion up or Wilson.
Yeah.
But yeah, so ride back. was I wasn't really tired. Well, no, I was. Okay, on the ride back, the energy kind of like, because it was like I've been up for over 24 hours. We're going on like 30, and I'm trying to sleep in a bus, but I couldn't get comfortable. I couldn't. And with my knee was on fire. I couldn't get comfortable. I couldn't sleep. And so like I was trying to like find different seats where I could like put my foot up and not have it on fire. So for the first few hours of the trip, I didn't get any sleep. And then I finally was able to sleep. And we stopped at a gas station. And I woke up to like my pillow falling out of the bus. Like I was in such a deep sleep. Then I didn't wake up until like I was falling. Yeah. And then I didn't get any more sleep the rest of the trip. After that like 50-minute nap, my energy levels went right back up. And ADHD Andrew, no medication, no sleep came out, which is a very rare version of me that not many people see, but everyone who was in
your bus was okay with it. Yeah. We were because the other three guys were in the back of a minivan. We pulled into Wolby, and Andrew sticks his head in the bus and goes, "Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey." I'm like, "I love you, but you need to back up because I just sat in the back of a minivan for hours and I need to go to bed." But it was funny.
Yeah. So
it was good. We
were driving through Toronto on our way back, and I started this thing. Like I was annoying myself, but I think everybody else found it entertaining. Like when I get like that, I'm like, Andrew, what do you like? Shut up. You're so annoying. Like I'm annoying myself because I just keep repeating stuff. I don't. Yeah. But everyone else thought it was entertaining. Thank the Lord. But we were driving through Toronto, and we would see like a logo or a sign, and we would like call it out. And it was like a competition to see who could see it first. So it was like Best Buy. Why Best Buy? The only thing that's coming to mind. And like a bunch of other stuff.
McDonald's.
Costco, something like that. Like Staples. Yeah, stuff like that. So that was kind of entertaining. And then every time I see a cow or something, I had to say like cow. I don't know. It was a weird trip back. Listened to some Christian hip hop on my speaker, vibing out. Yeah. He wasn't there.
No, I was in the back seat with Gabe and Nathaniel.
Played Exploding Kittens with Liam a little bit on the way back.
That's baller. That's sick.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about Revelation?
Yes.
With our teacher was Mr. Ward, so my dad, and we started like a week before we left for Quebec, and then he came with us, and then we finished it in Quebec. Yeah.
Is it centered? Oh, am I just talking quiet?
Well, when I was talking, I was a bit closer to help the
Well, Revelation. He said, Mr. Ward said something in class I thought was pretty cool. It was like, if you talk to Christians about this, it can make them kind of awkward. So, being me and being an awkward individual, I went to my church during Christmas break. I was talking to a bunch of people about Revelation, and they were giving me those like type stares, and I was like, "This is awkward. This is funny." And so, I was ready. And so, I don't know. It's interesting to talk to people about it because they have opinions and stuff, and it is prophecy. And so, I don't know. I think it's really cool, and I'd never studied it growing up, so I was excited to learn about it.
Yeah, no. I really enjoyed Revelation. Like, I'd always thought it was like super confusing because you hear like online and stuff, all this crazy stuff, all these crazy different interpretations. Like, and then my dad, like one of the first things he said was like, Revelation's not hard or scary. Just read it and take it as it is because.
Well, because if someone says, you need me to understand Revelation so you can understand it, then what they're basically saying is that God has given them more wisdom or imparted something more to them that's in addition to his word, which isn't true. If you're a Christian with the Holy Spirit living inside of you, this is God's word. Just like Chronicles, just like Romans, just like Corinthians is God's word. So with the help of the Holy Spirit and just reading his word.
And using like the right interpretation methods and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, like it was awesome just going through it. The first
3 chapters.
3 chapters is on like letters to, I think it's 7 different churches.
Yeah.
Let me pull out mine.
Yeah.
Oh, new CSB Bible. Shout out to my dad. He got it to me for Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first 3 chapters are on letters to different churches. And so Mr. Ward broke down the different churches and like where they were geographically and and how that can play into the type of church. So I don't remember which church it was. There was a church that was on a crossroads of 2 major intersections in that city. I think it was Philadelphia. And so that type of congregation is going to be way different than like the church that's built into like the fortress, secure in the rock, where there's not the same type of people flow there. And so I don't know. The letters are pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. One awesome thing in verse 3 of chapter 1 in Revelation. This is something that like it doesn't like say it. Does it say it anywhere else? I don't think so. Okay. Verse 3. Blessed is the one who reads aloud the words of this prophecy, and blessed are those who hear the words of this prophecy and keep what is written in it, because the time is near. So pretty much that's saying, if you read Revelation or you hear Revelation being read, you are blessed.
Yeah,
like
blessed
you
is
are
the
going
one.
to be blessed, which is pretty sick. Because it's like,
because we felt that at Quebec
like,
when we were.
yeah.
I felt that at Quebec when we were hanging out with the students and
like any other book. Like I don't like you go to Jeremiah. Does it promise that? I don't know why I said that.
Yeah.
Or like you go to Genesis. It doesn't say if you read this book like directly, you will be blessed. Obviously, if like you read scripture and apply it generally, but like this specifically says if you read this book and listen to it, or like which is just really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's very cool.
So go read Revelation and be blessed.
It's only like 22 chapters. I read it on a car ride. Yeah.
But like one of the things that my dad pointed out was like a lot of people, like as Wilson was saying, a lot of people are scared to preach Revelation because of it talks about some crazy stuff.
It's prophecy, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want to interpret it wrong.
But second chapter, when it starts talking about like John's letters to the churches or the letter to the churches, it's like really applicable because it's like telling these churches what they need to improve on, and it's kind of similar to like you could preach a sermon on this stuff like chapter 2, and is it chapter 3 as well?
Yeah,
and chapter 3, like you could preach on like 1st, 2nd Timothy, Philippians, which is just really cool because
they were just like sinful churches, just like our churches are sinful churches because they're filled with sinful people. So yeah, it was very cool. And then for the rest of the book, he taught it to us, and we created a timeline, which was really sick to put into perspective the time of events that happened in history. And like, I don't know, when I see reels now of like Revelation says this thing, I'm like, in the context, that should be here and not there where you're saying it is. So that was pretty cool.
Because like without the context, like anything taken out of context doesn't really make sense. Like you need context, especially when using a literal term interpretation, which is how all scripture should be interpreted. He was a fisherman. He doesn't have the most schooling. Writing what he's seeing. Like he's brought to heaven. He's in God's throne room, which is crazy to think of. Like, there's some pretty unimaginable stuff in there.
The description of it was really cool. I don't remember.
Like, what was it? Sea of glass or something?
I don't remember that. What I remember is the tree of life in heaven, which that could be a whole nother topic of conversation. And on the tree of life, there are 12 different kinds of fruit. I think that's cool. 12 different kinds of fruit.
Yeah, it was a sea of glass.
Yeah, something like a sea of glass, similar to crystal, also before the throne.
What is a sea of glass? Like, what is that? Like, it's just... like we don't know what John's seeing exactly, but it was pretty amazing. So this kind of leads into like interpreting other things he says. He could be seeing, like when he's describing stuff later, there's like some crazy stuff. Like giant locusts with horse
scorpions,
bodies, scorpion tails, like some crazy stuff is happening at Revelation. And so we don't know exactly what John's seeing, because he was a fisherman writing with like the knowledge of a fisherman, trying to describe these
things
like
in the future,
unimaginable crazy things. So you have to like apply that when you're interpreting what Revelation is saying, is because there's some stuff we just don't know what it's going to be like when it happens. And
when the rapture happens, we're not going to be here. So yeah, it's really cool.
But it's just really cool. It was just awesome to go through and like finally see everything in order, because like before you read it or you hear about it as a kid or like going through high school, and you're like, what is happening here? Like, what? Like,
prophecy, what?
But yeah, so it was cool being able to see like the order of events, and then now understanding more of like what it's gonna look like when the Antichrist comes, and when the beast and stuff, and what's gonna happen with that. Because like before, I kind of knew, like I knew that. Actually, I didn't know very much about the Antichrist like going into it.
I didn't.
And like now, so like the Antichrist is gonna come. He's gonna make like a treaty, and like most of the world's gonna follow him, right?
Yeah.
And then he's gonna break that treaty, commit the second abomination of desolation, not the one the Antiochus Epiphanes commits, but the one that the Antichrist is gonna commit, and then he's gonna break that agreement. And is that when the Antichrist then comes and
I don't remember
embodies, or not the Antichrist, the Satan, when he like takes control?
I'm not sure. Read Revelation to find out.
Okay, this has been a few months since we've studied it, so we're trying to bring stuff back. But
but it was really cool, and it was also cool to see throughout all of this, like there will be two angels. I don't know if the angels is the right term. Two beings that are going to be like proclaiming the gospel, flying around the earth in the end times, which is
two prophets.
I
think, is one of them Elijah?
I'm not sure. But I think it's cool that even through all of this, like there's hope, and the gospel is still being weaved through all that. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, and then they're going to kill the prophets. And the prophets are going to come back to life, and they're going to like throw down or something.
I don't remember. Oh, yes. And Jesus shall come back, and there shall be a river of blood, and we'll all be ready for battle, decked out in our armor. And Jesus is just going to like,
he's going to speak. And everyone, like all of the ops they're gone.
Yes. Yeah.
They're done.
The haters are gone. No.
But it was crazy to think. So like when Jesus comes back, he's going to establish his kingdom. Well, he's going to throw the Antichrist and the beast
into the lake of fire,
and Satan, right? Into
the abyss, because then
into the abyss
because of the millennial kingdom.
Wait, yeah. Into the abyss, he's going to throw everyone else into hell, and then the believers that are there, are going like in the king. He's going to set up his kingdom. And there's going to be like justice. There's going to be no death, if I'm correct, right?
I think so. But in that millennial kingdom, when Jesus is reigning on earth, this was what was cool, is we're going to be serving with him in perfect unity.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I love serving Jesus, and I'm a sinner. People I serve with are sinners, and sin sucks. But it's going to be so cool to serve perfectly with all of the believers.
So, like, there's going to be, like, no crime, because as soon as someone does something, it's going to be, like, it's going to be dealt with.
It'll be cool.
Because, like, Jesus is there. He sees everything. So it's going to be dealt with. But it's kind of crazy to think that after the 1,000 years, like, after Jesus sets the kingdom on earth, that 1,000 years, there are going to be people who... Because, like, the believers that were saved for the 1,000-year kingdom, they're gonna have babies that are not like potentially not saved, right? And even in this like kingdom on earth, where Jesus like wipes the tears off of people's faces and stuff, right? There's going to be people who still don't like reject Christ and reject God. And at the end of those 1,000 years, they're going to get together. And then, they're going to get together
and form the rebellion, and Satan's going to be released from the abyss.
Yeah,
and
Satan's okay.
And then there's going to be a final battle, and then they'll be thrown
and
into
that's
like a
where
fire.
We're all there.
Yeah.
Ready to support, ready to like do anything God needs us to do. But we're not going to do anything.
Exactly.
Jesus is going to speak and
God.
Everyone dies. Like, it's going to be epic.
It's going to be dope.
Yeah. And then there's like birds like feasting. It's pretty gory.
Yeah. That's
Revelation is
an R-rated book. It's an R-rated book. Yeah. So,
but you will be blessed if you read it.
Study the Bible, its entirety. Right. If you studied, I don't know, the Epistles a lot, take a break. Study Revelation. Don't take a break. Study both, because we only have one.
Interpret it literally.
Yeah.
Like, don't try to put your own ideas into Scripture. Take it as it is. What John's writing, what he's trying to write. We have to interpret it based on author,
the time period,
context,
because he's trying to predict something in the future,
thousands of years in the future.
Yeah, at least 2,024 years now.
So like some of these things could possibly be tanks, or like the mark of the beast could be like
whatever, XYZ.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I can't predict that far in the future, right? And like this, that's crazy.
So
it's crazy.
You just got to interpret as it is. And when it comes, we will know.
Yeah.
We will be like the people at the on earth. Because Revelation is written for people, the believers are raptured.
Yeah.
Unbelievers are left. Revelation is for those people to explain what's happening, because people will start noticing, oh wait, like they'll find the Bible and they'll be like, okay, where did all the Christians go? And they'll turn to Revelation. They'll be like, this is what's happening. Oh, God's real. I made a mistake. And people are going to get saved in the time in tribulation.
Yeah.
And and that's what Revelation's for. And so they're going to be reading this, they're going to be studying this, and they're going to be like, okay, this thing that just happened, or this judgment, or this seal is this,
right here.
It's going to be cool.
It's going to be really sick.
And then we're going to be in heaven, just praising God,
at the marriage supper, the feast,
laying our crowns at His feet.
It's going to be dope. Oh, what a party! I will say this has been the one class that I think I broke 20 questions one class period. So that was pretty good. And Mr. Ward's answer was, "You'll have to ask Jesus."
It hasn't happened yet.
We don't know.
We don't quite know.
Thank you. Anyway.
So that's like one of the things. Like you just got to take it as it is.
Yeah.
That's where it's not really worth like trying to figure it out too much. Obviously, we need like study it and have an idea, but
it's not
a lot of these things are just future. Like,
they're predictions too, right? Yeah. Like we both have the same information, so it's not, you know what I mean? Like,
like we need to be careful with like the war in Israel right now, or in the Hamas. We need to be careful with that, because Christians I know have seen, oh, this is happening. Is this the end times? Are they coming? And we need to be careful with that, because
nobody knows the day.
Yeah, we don't quite know.
Yeah. Cool.
But when it happens, I'm sure we will know.
Yeah. Boom. Yeah, exactly. Cool. All right. So moving on to the next topic. The Pastoral Epistles. We had Pastor
Stephen Todd
come and teach that. It seems so long ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't.
This was after we got back from Quebec.
Yes. There was a week there where it was just theology and Old Testament. We don't talk a lot about that. We have these constant courses. That sounds so bad. We get to learn about the Old Testament and theology. Ooh. So, I don't know. So there'll be some weeks where we won't have a guest lecture, and we'll just like do intensive, like, I think that week we went through like Daniel and did we do like through Old Testament? I know we were hitting prophets. That's what we were hitting. I think it was prophets that week. And so that was fun.
Yeah.
And then theology, I don't remember. It was theology proper.
Yeah,
Study of
proper.
God. Study of God.
And then after that, was it Christology?
Maybe.
Study of Christ.
That was so 2023. Yeah. So yeah, there's like weeks like that too. Those classes are really cool too. I don't know. What did you had written down for pastoral epistles?
I found the qualifications for like church leaderships, like deacons, elders. That was really challenging because we should all strive to meet those requirements. Because we all should strive to be like good Christian leaders and stuff.
It's so loud.
Bruh. So yeah, it was a really challenging class because it's like challenging. Paul is encouraging Timothy to live unashamed and to be faithful in his ministry and to not be timid, but to
fight the good fight.
Yeah, fight the good fight and to stick to sound doctrine and admonish the false teachers in the church.
Yeah. That's hard, man. Like,
yeah.
That's like, imagine that being your calling.
And Timothy's a young guy, too.
Yeah,
right.
Yikes. But that's pretty cool. So, I don't know. That's good.
Yeah. I had more written down. Actually, I think I said all that.
Yeah.
Sorry, this class was kind of like a blur. It happened in a week, and yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was cool to see the differences between 1st and 2nd Timothy because Paul had been he was at house arrest during 1st Timothy, and now he had been like in prison, and he was like, Timothy, please bring me my coat, because he didn't have a coat. And so I'm like, oh, there's a big time gap. And
I remembered something I want to talk about. Okay. So Timothy, like Paul is encouraging Timothy to live like him, right? Yes. As he seeks to live like Christ.
As
right?
Paul seeks to live like Christ. Yeah.
But like, I forget if it was before or after he says this, but he's talking about how much he's done wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And that was really cool to hear, because it's like Paul is saying, like, we can still encourage people to live like us as we seek to live like Christ.
Yeah.
Even though we're sinners and we're not perfect. Because like I can totally feel sometimes where it's like, oh man, like I lost my temper, or I let something slip. I did something I shouldn't have. Like, I'm a how am I supposed to lead people? Yeah. How am I supposed to tell other people to live like me? Right. And Paul was a murderer.
Yeah.
Right. He persecuted the church before he was saved. And that guy is saying, hey, live like me as I live like Christ, which is really cool, because we can do that because we're saved through Christ, and our sins have been washed away, which is just so cool.
Yeah, and that was another thing somebody pointed out. Oh, I'm touching a cable. Somebody pointed out is that the heroes of the Bible, some of them, most of them, were murderers. Like Moses killed somebody, right? Killed the Egyptian slave master or whatever.
Who was like, beating the Jewish people. Or
and like, I don't know, in Genesis it says Moses was like a very humble man. And I'm like, that's cool, right? And David broke like 8 of the commandments in like 2 verses or something. And like, that was a man after God's own heart, right? And Paul now is saying, imitate me like I imitate Christ. And it's very cool.
So it's just cool. As long as our heart's in the right place and we're actively seeking to be more like Christ, we can be an example for others, which was just really cool.
Yeah. That flows well into another course we took.
Yeah.
Discipleship was 1 week.
And biblical counseling was the week before.
Yeah. And so they're very, they very much overlap.
Yeah. Let's talk about biblical counseling.
Okay.
Joe Shanky was our teacher.
Whew. That man is wise.
Yeah. He has a whole lot of wisdom for a whole lot of areas in life. Yeah. He's the biblical counseling. he runs the Biblical Counseling Center in Screw Lake, New York, like the Word of Life there.
Yeah.
So he brought...
Well, he developed it, I think, too, right?
Yeah, I think he started it. They asked him to start it. So he brought 4 interns. They're great. He ran 2 seminars while he was here.
3.
2. There were 3 sessions, but 2 topics.
Oh, yes, yeah.
That's what I meant, sorry. One was on anxiety, the other was on temptation. Okay. And we had a decent amount of work that week, but like I made it a priority to go to those seminars.
Yeah. It was really good.
Because I know just how much wisdom he has, and it was really good. And he did the anxiety one, he talked about like anxiety, obviously. But he went through Philippians like 4 verses 5 to 9 or 5 to 7. And this past summer I studied Philippians 4, 6 and 7 specifically, and then I preached our camp youth group here. But like the verse before, verse 5 talks about the Lord is near, and then verse 6 says, "Do not be anxious." And I didn't make the connection between the previous verse is that we don't have to be anxious because the Lord is near.
Yeah.
And then how we get the peace of God is through, praying about everything with thanksgiving. But it was cool because like I didn't make that connection, and yeah, it was just really cool.
Yeah. I don't know.
So much information.
I love the I should have reviewed the notes. I love the temptation one. It was like there's a desire there to sin, and then you're faced with a choice. Right?
Oh, the Department of Transportation. Yeah.
I forget what it was. There was like 3 steps in there.
Desire, opportunity, time.
Yeah. And
you need all 3 of those
to give into temptation. To temptation. So like, yeah, so breaking down that in my head was really cool, right? Because if you're struggling with temptation, you got to get rid of those 3 things. Mm-hmm. So, which I thought was pretty cool.
Let me just scroll up to the notes.
Oh, the side-by-side book. We read this book called Side by Side by
Edward Welch.
And it was...
Welch.
I have not read a lot of books in my lifetime, but it was pretty good.
It was a really good book.
It was pretty good.
It was, oh man, I went through it. Like I saved that book to read last. As I was, because like we have other reading that we had to do, like for Old Testament. I read that. Sorry, I left that one to last because I was excited to read it, and
very well done.
I wanted to read it, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna read this other stuff first, and then I'll read this. It was so applicable. It challenged me a lot, like in a lot of areas, especially like interacting with other people and stuff.
Because it was like, I don't know. From what I remember, I think it was more like discipleship type vibes. It was like I don't know, be like Christ and encourage and help the people around you, and then like practical ways on how you can do that, right? So like I know from some of his examples, it was more like small groups, right? So like if I'm leading a small group, I can go like, hey, Andrew, do you want to pray? And do you want to read this section of scripture? Do you want to, and like that can help change the dynamic of a group and build future leaders and stuff. So it was really
one thing, it was like one of the first things we cover was like, everybody is a counseling giver and needer. We all need counseling. And we all give counseling. Like counseling is both formal and informal.
Yeah.
It's like someone asks your opinion or something.
That's your counseling opportunity. Yeah.
That is informal counseling.
Yeah. Totally.
So that was just cool to think. And like every counselor is a theologian because like everything like biblical counseling it needs to be based on scripture.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. When someone asks your opinion about something, like you could state your opinion or you could state scripture back to them, right? Which is, in my books, pretty good. That's the answer.
Yeah, so that was really challenging because I feel I struggle with like letting other people like help me kind of thing. Like I want to do it on my own. I'm really independent, and I have a hard time reaching out for help. So this was really challenging when it said, while counseling needers, we need to ask people to pray for us, which is something that I realized through this class. Because I don't really ask like, hey, I'm struggling. I'm really overwhelmed right now with like school. Could you pray for me? and yeah, which was something that I've started doing, and it's been great. Yeah. But like the Bible and God calls us to interact with other people, no matter if we don't have like the best. We're not very charismatic. Like
there's no excuse. We're told to go and make disciples.
Like even
right
if we're like naturally antisocial and we don't have as much social skills. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
We still need to interact with other people and greet people at church and seek to invest in other people and pour into other people's lives, which was challenging because I tend to not interact with people. And the book was pretty much saying like, we just need to like do it.
Yeah.
And it, no matter if it's really awkward and the conversation's really stale, we need to trust that God will help us and give us the strength we need to improve at that skill. Because social skills are something that like everybody can improve at or become more comfortable with in a certain like you can always grow better and stronger. That's cool. So that was challenging. It was like we need to trust that God will help us build that skill, like as we seek to reflect how Jesus did it and how Jesus interacted with others.
I went home to my church, and one of the preacher, it was a guest lecture at the time. He said, guest pastor, guest preacher. It sounds so school educated. Anyway, he was kind of along the same lines of that. He was saying on how like we need to, as a younger generation, you need to go to the older people because they have wisdom and they want to talk to you. And older people, you need to go to the younger people because they want to talk to you and you have wisdom. So you both are responsible to grow those connections and relationships.
What else? Oh, yes. Is there anything you wanted to talk about first?
I don't remember. I don't know. Whatever you want to. What you should always put Christ in the center of your life. I don't know. Like I don't know if you stole this from somebody, but I was talking to you the other day, and you said this thing, and it was really good. It was like, if you can't love God, you can't love people well. And I was like...
That's from Joe Shanky.
Oh, okay. Like, well, thank you, Joe Shanky. I was like, that's you counseling me. Wow,
like,
look at that. Practical.
He was talking about how our love with God is directly connected to us loving others. Because if we're loving God, we're going to love others.
Yeah.
And if we're loving others in a godly way, well, the only reason we're doing that is because we're loving God.
Exactly.
And if we're trying to love others, but we're failing in like all aspects, we're not loving God.
Yeah, reevaluate.
We're not letting Him like live through us.
Yeah. That
was challenging because it's hard to love others sometimes.
People are sinners. So.
If we're struggling to do that, and if we're not doing that, we're not loving God, which was really challenging.
That was one thing I learned on break, is that it occurred to me that we're supposed to like serve Jesus in life. This might sound very rudimental, but it hit me really hard. And we should serve Jesus in all we do. It was Christmas and stuff, and people are like, what do you want? And I'm like, I don't know. And it occurred to me, I just want to serve Jesus. And I can do that by serving the people around me. And by doing that can help with your temptation. That can take away the time to be lazy, or like that can lead to temptation, or to just be more productive. But it was so much fun to just go home and serve the people around me.
So, oh man, there's so much. I could talk about biblical counseling and discipleship. Like,
it's so good.
There was so much applicable stuff. But one thing I want to go back on is to like the prioritizing Christ in our lives and seeking to live Christ-centered, because that's if we're struggling, like we just feel like we can't do right, like we're really struggling to live like Christ, it's because we're probably not prioritizing Him in our lives. And that's something that was really challenging. Is I need to, and we need to put Christ first in everything, which means like we need to do our quiet time earlier, and we need to not put it off. And when we do, well, when we're not prioritizing Christ, we're prioritizing self,
which is an idol, right? So it could be said very bluntly like that too, right? So
And usually
totally.
when we do stuff out of our own strength, it doesn't end very well.
No.
So yeah, that was really challenging. Was like, as we seek to counsel others, we need to live like Christ. We need to put him as the center, and then we need to encourage other people to do the same.
Yeah, and kind of on that note too, you like when giving counsel, and I don't know, this is a big passion of mine, is like you can counsel someone and go like, hey, you did this sin, stop sinning this way. Or you can go, hey, I saw you do this. Why? Right? And you can dig past the actions to the heart and the root of the problem. And like, if your heart is right, like it's like a tree, right? If your tree is right, your fruit is going to be right. And so when counseling, don't just prune all the fruit off the tree, because the tree hasn't changed, right? You got to go back to the heart. And what does the heart want? I was reading this in Romans today. Heart wants what the heart wants, and I'm deceitfully wicked, and I end up doing the things I don't want to do anyway. But yeah, so when you're, I don't know, biblical counseling is like, look at the heart, look at your heart and your motives, and follow Jesus. Make him the center of your life.
And to add on that, like, kind of speak on what Wilson was saying, when we're counseling others or when we're discipling others, like biblical counseling, it's like, what was it? Like more, it was like intensive discipleship.
Yeah.
Was that it? Yeah. So we need, when we're counseling others, and even in ourselves, in our own lives, we need to not focus on the outward issues or problems. And instead, we need to aim for the heart, and we need to lead them to Christ, who will transform them and transform their heart and their desires.
Because also on that, I can't change anybody, right? If I keep going, Andrew, your heart is wicked, that's not going to help you at all. That's not accomplishing my goal of getting your heart transformed, right? But if I'm like, Colossians 3, we need to be meek and humble and do not do these things and do these things, right? That's where the Holy Spirit.
Or like if you fix one outward issue, but then another one appears,
maybe you're not aiming for the right thing.
So it's like we need to lead them to Christ, because he's the only one who can transform our hearts and our desires, and just transform us into being more like him. And that, as a result, will help with issues. It may not like, okay, one example that he talked about was, I think Joe was counseling someone who had gone through a divorce and his wife had left him or something. I forget the specific details, but Joe said that his goal when that happens in someone he's counseling, his goal is not to fix their marriage, even though that's what the person wants, right? And he the goal is not to fix the marriage. The goal is to lead them to Christ so he can transform them, which will help future problems and future issues, but it may not fix the marriage. Right. Because God is still good, even if the marriage isn't fixed. Right. Obviously it's great if it is. But if it isn't, like, we can't depend on outward stuff being fixed, because that doesn't mean, like, just because your wife comes back or just because
your
the
fruit
marriage
is good
fixed,
doesn't mean that your tree is still right. And if you focus on that tree and it starts producing good fruit, then hopefully down the line, that person go, I need to trim this branch because my tree is still good, right? It was, if you just keep pruning it and deal with the fruit, you're missing it.
So it was like,
about the heart.
Where was I going? Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's okay if it ends in divorce. You didn't say it that bluntly.
Okay. Outward stuff isn't the goal, because just because outward stuff changes doesn't mean we've changed, and that doesn't help in the future at all. But if we've changed and we've been transformed by Christ, then that'll help, right?
Yeah.
And
it should.
Yeah. So
I'm not a biblical counselor. I just am a counselor. I don't know. No,
so
we're all biblical counselors.
To biblical counseling, discipleship, which my dad taught, Mr. Ward taught,
which was really
was it the week after? Yeah, I think it was the week after biblical counseling.
Which is the good part, good play. I don't know. I think lining those two classes up was pretty good. Yeah. So, Discipleship.
It was really good.
This can be another scary term I've experienced with some people, the same way revelation can be scary. But what is a disciple? That's a good question. And so the way it was defined to us is a disciple is a follower of Jesus. And so discipleship is being in the state of following Jesus. And so putting it into context like that, right? Like, I don't know, what did Jesus do? What did his disciples do? And so, I don't know, we need to encourage one another and build each other up and I guess counsel, I don't know, they're so similar, but like counseling can be really more intense on a singular subject, like the example of divorce, and discipleship can kind of be more like very broad, right? Like here's one thing I'm noticing, and here's one thing I'm noticing, and then we kind of work on problems like that. That's what I've experienced.
Yeah. And one thing, I think it was in reading one of the books that we were assigned, like evangelism is great, but evangelism without discipleship leads to spiritual baby. Like, okay, this is how it can be explained, right? So you've shared the gospel with someone, they come to Christ, they are now a spiritual baby, right?
Praise Jesus.
And similarly, you know, a woman is pregnant, she conceives, right?
Conceives is pregnant.
Yeah,
Gives
that
birth.
way around. And then the baby's born. They
Yes.
are a baby, right? In the same way, someone comes to Christ, they're a spiritual baby. And that woman
Baby
who has
needs
just
some
born
milk.
the baby wouldn't leave the baby on its own.
Facts.
Because on its own, it's going to die. Okay? Right?
Or it's gonna find a different mother, right?
Yeah.
But you birthed that baby, right? And discipleship is following Jesus.
Yeah.
And Jesus didn't just like share the gospel and disappear, right? Like there was the 72 went out in pairs, and he had the 12, and so you need to pick up that baby and you need to feed it some milk.
Because if you share the gospel with someone, but then you don't get them connected in a local church and they have no support, it's like leaving a newly born baby out in the rain somewhere, right? And
Yeah.
telling it, hey, go feed yourself.
Good luck.
Go get yourself some milk, right? Go survive on your own. No, it's not going to survive on its own. In the same way, when we bring someone to Christ, we need to connect them with a church, give them resources,
Stability,
and we
and
need to be with them and lead them, or get someone
Disciple them.
yeah, or connect them to a church with a good discipleship program, so they can spend time with them and pour into
Develop them, or
and
help them develop them with the Holy Spirit and stuff. Yeah.
because a spiritual someone who's just come to Christ they don't fully comprehend like everything.
I do not fully comprehend everything in this book. This is the progress
we
of
need
sanctification.
people to come alongside and to like develop those things and teach those things, because if we don't, just like the baby in like the newly born baby left out in the rain, they're not going to survive very long, right? So a new convert to Christianity, or like someone who's just accepted Christ, they're probably going to turn away if they're not
going to develop a lot of health problems,
and,
right?
Yeah.
Yep. So we gotta.
So that was really challenging, because I think a lot of us are guilty of just sharing Christ, hearing that they've accepted Christ, and then like, cool. And we don't really follow up. And and one of the books that we were reading, it was talking about how Christ spent, like he would speak to the masses, right? But he really spent a lot of time with just 12 people, right? And spent a lot of time with them.
Yeah.
And that was kind of something new that I hadn't realized before, is like discipleship isn't evangelizing to the masses. Like evangelizing to the masses is good. Jesus did that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't his priority. His priority was to develop these 12 disciples who could then take what Jesus had taught them into the rest of the world
And make their own disciples.
and
right?
that's how and it was explained, my dad or Mr. Ward explained it as addition versus multiplication.
Yeah.
Addition starts off, it's very slow, right?
right? If I'm discipling one person, and then they disciple one person, and then I disciple another person, then we're up to 4. But if I disciple one person, and they disciple, and I teach them how to disciple, right? Then like it multiplies.
So it's like
said that well.
Evangelizing to the masses, a bunch of people get saved. Awesome. Great. But if they're not connected with the local church, or if there's nobody to help them mature and grow in their in spiritual maturity, that's addition, right? And multiplication, like Jesus, like most of the world has heard of Jesus to some extent, right? Jesus is people use it as a swear word, like across the world, right? They take the Lord's name in vain. Why is that? Because of how many people have heard of him. And Jesus spent time with 12 people specifically to train them to go out into the world and multiply. And that's multiplication. And that's what we need to do. We need to spend time developing people, discipling people, helping them become more like Christ, teaching them
how to disciple,
what the word says, and then teaching them how to disciple, and then they'll make disciples. And then they'll make this.
And the way he described it is, if that happens, like if we all, if I don't know if it was just the churches in Western culture, but if we all as Christians intentionally discipled one person to make disciples, it would take like 40-ish years for all of the people to be saved. Like 8 billion. I think it was something along those lines, right? And that is like. That's awesome. I don't know. Like, that's pretty cool.
And that's what Jesus did.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Because he preached to the masses, he made the babies, and then he trained his disciples, and then he left. And his disciples, right, like worked with that and ran with that, right? And planted those churches and were on fire. So, yeah.
And that just shows how much better multiplication is, like in discipleship, than addition. Yeah. Which was kind of mind-blowing. Was because part of the reason why a lot of churches are struggling to find pastors or to find leaders is because
who's discipling them?
We're not discipling. There's no discipleship.
Yeah. And so
in discipleship, discipleship is the answer to that, which was crazy to think.
And the other thing that I thought was really cool, kind of on this note, is he said that like the term, the church of the next generation of churches, right? Like the children nowadays, if they are believers, just like I'm a believer, they're part of the church. They're part of the body, right? In the same way I serve in my local church, let's get these children to serve in our local church, right? Because they are part of the church. And that can be a great way of discipleship, right? Like, it was totally eye-opening. And then I went home for Christmas and we had families, little children on stage doing our Advent wedding. And I was like, this is really cute. And it does work. So, yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
And one thing that I want to share is in Mark, I think out of a few gospel accounts, it talks about the man with the legion of demons in him. Do you know the reference?
I think so. Mark 7, I think.
So this man who's like cutting himself, screaming in a graveyard. The village, like the village near him, has tried to shackle him, like tried to bound him so that he stops, right? But he has so much strength from the demon inside him that they can't bind him with chains.
I don't remember where it is.
So he's just wrecking havoc, right? Being crazy with all these demons, and then Jesus shows up, and the demons are like scared, right? And they're like, "Don't cast us out, cast us in these pigs," and the pigs go jump off a cliff, right, and die. And then the villagers are mad. But after that, the dude who was possessed by all these demons is sitting at Jesus' feet, listening to him, right?
Oh, okay.
And then Jesus is leaving because the people and those villagers are like, "Get out of here! You killed all of our pigs. We don't want to hear what you have to say. Leave!" Right? So Jesus is leaving.
Yeah, as he was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed, this is Mark 5:18. The man who was demon-possessed begged him earnestly that he might remain with Jesus. Jesus did not let him, but told him, "Go home to your own people and report to them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." So he, the demon-possessed man, went out and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and they were all amazed. Jesus made a disciple. Like,
Yeah. And that shows. So that was a like moments
demon-possessed
before
man.
that dude had
Was
been like
not
screaming.
not an infant, not a spiritual infant, right? He was the stage before that.
And immediately after for a short period of time, he was listening to Jesus. Jesus says, "Go and tell the village about what God's done in your life. Go share your testimony. Go like
Your
make
local
disciples,"
church, right? Yeah,
right?
go. Yeah.
And that just goes to show nobody has an excuse to not do discipleship.
Yeah, that dude probably didn't have theology training or Bible survey training or like, no, he was just some dude who everybody hated, and yet God still used him.
Yeah, and then it says, where does it say?
Where?
So this is the dude who was demon possessed, went out and began to proclaim, this is in verse 20, in the Decapolis, how much Jesus had done for him, and they were all amazed. So we, too, don't have an excuse not to disciple, because a dude, moments before, who had just been demons possessed, could.
Yeah.
So it's like, if that dude can, anyone can.
Facts. Yeah.
And we need to.
It's a command. Yeah.
we're commanded to.
Yeah.
We're commanded to go and make disciples of all nations.
Yep.
Baptizing them. So that means like teaching them and
not just
teaching them
spiritual
to disciple
infants.
others. Yeah.
It was really good. Good class. Good job, Mr. Ward.
What
Did we skip some stuff? We did. Because we skipped.
I wanted to touch on the bearing fruit thing, because that was something that kind of really stuck out for me and that I've been praying about, is that we need, according to like John 15, 1-17, that's the reference that was in the notes. We need to bear much fruit. And if we're not bearing much fruit, we may be bearing like little fruit. And if we're bearing little fruit, we're going to be pruned so that we bear much fruit. But that pruning process is literally like cutting, right? Yeah. It's painful. So we need to aim to bear much fruit so that we're not cut.
So it doesn't hurt as much. Okay.
And then bearing no fruit is just an unbeliever, and they're going to be cast into flames, right?
Yeah. That's scary. I don't remember that one. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of really challenging, just because like, okay, am I bearing much fruit? If
it's not, gonna hurt.
It's gonna hurt, and I need to seek to bear much fruit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good. I think we skipped some stuff. Scroll back up before counseling, because I did. Keep going. Before counseling. Yeah, we did.
Yes.
So after we did Pastoral Epistles, so Quebec trip, Pastoral Epistles, we went to the ROM, the Royal Ontario Museum. Mm-hmm. I learned that there's a lot of reading that happens in a museum, and it was cool to look at things, look at swords from the Roman Empire and helmets and Egyptian stuff.
My experience was very different. I had to read everything. And it took me forever. So I was going around the museum, like the whole group was way ahead. And it was really cool to see these statues, these old statues of Greek and Roman gods and the history behind them. And then the Egyptians and how they made stuff. And my dad pointed out, this is probably when Pharaoh told them, okay, you need to make more bricks, right?
Yeah.
Even though
we're just not giving you straw.
Yeah. And my dad showed me, and it was this is probably the tools they use. This is how Moses wrote. So it was really cool.
Yeah.
And the museum's not directly biblical, but there are a lot of stuff from that time, and it's easier to imagine some of the things that's going on because you have the context.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. I didn't actually make it through the entire Egyptian section. I made it halfway through, and then they were okay, we have to go. And so I hurried through trying to read as much as I could. But it was awesome.
It was cool. Yeah. And then after that, so we were in Toronto, and then Gabe's church lives in Toronto, lives in Brampton, is located.
It's in Brampton.
What is
Peel
it called?
International Church.
Okay. So we went there, all 8 students for a ministry outing. So that was pretty dope. We had like a Word of Life youth night. I don't know. It was like we did 8 worship songs, which was fun. And then I gave a message on joy, found in I don't remember where.
You kind of did a topic one.
Yeah, I don't remember. It was one of the sermons. I think it was from. Yeah, I jumped around a bit, but that was cool. That was fun. The everyone else is gonna get mad if I don't say this, but if your ice cream gets eaten, your happiness gets depleted. But joy is a choice and an attitude and a mindset and the way we view life and be part of your worldview. And Jesus says, be joyful. And so don't be dependent on your circumstances around you to make you joyful, because that's why I have Jesus and that's why I can rejoice. That's enough. Should be. Yeah. Should be.
And
enough.
then I helped with a Q&A at the end.
Yeah,
with my
which
dad.
was sick. I think that was sick.
And most of the questions were questions for my dad, and I was kind of just standing there waiting. Eventually they came up with some questions, and I talked about like my experience here a little bit, and yeah, it was cool. It was awesome. It was a great time. There's good food too.
It was really good food. I don't know if it was pork or chicken or what they had, a little skewer, but I had like 4 of those, and the pasta was good, and the rice was good. It was good.
It was good.
It was very good.
It was a great night.
Yeah. What else do we have? The banquet? Is that what was next? Yes.
Yep.
We had the Christmas banquet.
So student council, we kind of have been prepping this for the entire first semester.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Yep. So I don't know. That was pretty cool.
The theme was cozy.
Yes.
So it was the cozy Christmas banquet. We made Wilson made a fireplace, which was awesome.
Which was cool.
And
there's like the centerpieces looked really nice, and they had fire in them, and then we had like atmospheric lighting, and it was very, I don't know, I've never been to like a banquet like this. I thought it was pretty cool.
Want to see the photos? They're up on Flickr.
Yeah, they're up on Flickr.
Word of Life Canada.
Yeah. So
yours truly took the photos. Some of them. Okay. We tried to set up as much as we could in advance.
Yeah. We did like
but
7
we still
hours
didn't have
on
a ton
Friday
of time.
night, and then another 6 hours on Saturday or something.
And so there's 8 students. So 4 of us are on student council. So there's like 4 of us setting up most of this. So I was helping with the tech.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, Lydia and Gabe and Ye1 and the thing.
Yes, thank you. And Kim and other people.
Yeah.
And Jaden, my brother, who helped.
Yeah, he was there too. Thank you, Jaden.
But so I was setting up the tech most of the time. And I didn't get much time to set up the photo stuff. And I kind of messed up part of the lighting. And I was going back and I was editing and I was like, this has not turned out how I wanted. So if some of the lighting looks scuffed,
it's fine.
Yeah, but
it was cool.
Yeah, it still looked cool. I think they turned out all right, but
yeah. And then this has been like a core memory of mine. So me and Andrew were in charge of planning the sick dope after party for the students, and so we went shopping together. For those of you who haven't shopped with Andrew, I would recommend it. It was so much fun walking through the dollar store going, this would be a funny gift. This would be a funny gift. This should be a funny gift.
So like the idea heading into the after party was, okay, so the theme for the banquet is like a cozy chill.
Yeah.
Like my dad read a story at the end in front of the fireplace. So it was like supposed to be like chill, cozy, a little bit more traditional. And then the after party was supposed to be unhinged, like
chaos,
stupid, funny, chaos.
So we went to the smartest person we know. That's a joke. ChatGPT. And we were just like, give us ideas for games.
It was like 1 a.m. one night.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so we did some
the night before.
Yeah.
The day before.
Yeah.
1 a.m. we were like, okay,
planning this.
Let's think of some games for the after party.
It was so. And then we went shopping Saturday afternoon, and we picked up like funny prizes of like, just like dumb, silly stuff.
Like we were in Walmart. Forget. Oh, you guys were getting flowers for the girls. That was it.
Yeah.
And then we were like, okay, we had a few things. We kind of spent most of our budget on the Christmas banquet. We found a few things like a chocolate bar or something.
Yeah.
But we were like, okay, we need more. Yeah. And we're out of budget. So because we love the other students and we want them to have a great time, we'll spend our own money,
but it was fun.
And get some more stuff. So we were in Walmart. We had to pick up one thing for the banquet. That's why we were there.
Oh,
yes. Decorations. And then we were walking by the poster section, and we saw this Barbie poster of like Margot Robbie, and we were like, okay, this would be hilarious as a prize.
Yep. And so we got that one, and then we were in Dollarama, and we saw a grade 6 for a child, a ski mask. We're like, we were all grown adults with big heads. This would be funny.
Like a baklava.
Yeah, baklava. And then what else did we get? We got like financial advice tips.
Dollar store financial advice. It was like a calendar thing where like you'd lift like the note. Yeah.
One of them was actually Lydia's been posting them, but one of them was stop smoking and save money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we found this like one gift. It was like an like those plush octopus. It was like the reversible ones, right? Yeah. It was like Santa and reindeer. Yeah. We're like, this would be hilarious. Yeah. So, and then some of the games we came up with were like, we just put like a stupid, silly twist to them.
We did like games, a candy cane scavenger hunt. We did the cellophane wrapped. We did a cookie decorating competition. Mm-hmm. We did a sleigh ride, which just turned out to be pulling people around on cardboard. But the track was way too long, and so it was like physically demanding. It was so bad. What else did we do? We did a gift. Random. We did a draw, so we all pulled names and we bought a present for somebody else without them knowing, and then we all unwrapped it, and it was really funny. Yeah, I enjoyed it. So that was a good idea. And then is that it? Banquet.
One of the games was like that we did at the after party was we got Vaseline, like put it on your face, and then we got cotton balls and you had to like throw them
to make Santa's like Santa beard. Yeah. That was just fun to Vaseline up somebody, like Vaseline up Nathaniel and Gabe's face. That was fun.
That was great.
It was baller.
And then we played like Switch Sports, like Nintendo Switch Sports afterwards, which was great. Yeah, it was fun.
Was that it? What else did we have?
Studying for final exams.
Yeah, that was fun. No,
that's all you have to say.
I don't know. What else did we do? Well, that was like
there was multiple like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. nights studying.
I don't know.
It was crazy.
That week, I feel like I was kind of not. I was unthriving. I don't know. I was like, Mondays come around, Thursday and Friday are exams. I should start studying. So, I don't know. And then we have Orion. Orion is the Dean of Men from New York. Orion's a cool guy. We love you. But he can be a little OCD, which is good. And I don't think this guy's dorm has ever been that clean before. Like, before we left, we had to clean it. And so
we spent the night before our final Old Testament exam. Yeah. We spent 5 hours cleaning. So the entire time we just blasted anime music at like max volume on my speaker.
Yeah, and just
for like 5 hours straight.
Just clean.
Yeah,
it was dope.
And then I was going to Pennsylvania to my grandma's with my dad. So I had to pack too. So we were like packing until 2 a.m. It was crazy.
Yeah, but that was fun. And I'm thankful for it because then when I come back here now in second semester, I'm like, oh, that's all clean and that was all clean.
Yeah,
so it was good.
But I did not have very much time to study because I usually study until the day before. Wouldn't recommend. Don't do that. But I find it works for me most of the time, as long as I have time to study. But I didn't have time, so I went into the exam like dead tired, kind of stressed, and I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go. It ended up going fine, but definitely the worst exam I wrote all semester.
I don't know. I did good on it. And then. For those of you who are listening who might be coming to Recharge, I think this is public knowledge. We got gel blasters. And so I got to, and some other students who want to, got to test out gel blasters. So that was a very good relieve the stress from the exam and shoot people with little Orbeez. They're like water beads. Anyway, so that was really fun. We got to do that before we left and just unload on people. And yeah, it was fun.
I wasn't there because I had to pack the car and leave, but so I think that's everything that we've had on our list.
I feel bad because there's not as much funny stuff, but also this was like 2 months ago. Yeah. And so I'm like, what are some, and then we're like, oh, we just studied. that's pretty much all we did.
Well, I guess we can talk. We should probably talk a little bit about this. We finished the Old Testament in like
4
September,
months,
October, November,
4 months, December.
Yeah, 4 months, which is a lot of reading.
Yeah, it's like
so that's part of the reason why there wasn't as much funny stuff.
It's that much reading, like
is because it was like the home stretch of getting through like the major prophets and the minor prophets and stuff.
Yeah.
Before Christmas break, which we did it, and it was great. But yeah, so there wasn't as much time for funny stuff,
but now because we're only studying a third of the Bible,
we have a lot more time.
Yeah, we do,
and that's why we're here.
Exactly. Yeah. End of week 1. So yeah.
It was cool to go through the entire Old Testament in 4 months, and then in Old Testament survey, my dad would go through it. Mr. Ward would go through it, and he would like explain, and like we'd have maps and stuff. It was just way easier to see, because like reading through Jeremiah and stuff. Before coming to the BI, I had I'd been doing my Bible reading, and I was just like, okay, it's talking about this, but then it jumps to talking about Babylon, and I was just like, what is Babylon? Like before, and now I'm like, okay, now I understand. This isn't chronological. Yeah. It kind of jumps around because in Hebrew, they're more like thematic and. They don't group things chronologically, like we do now, which was interesting because, like, you know, without knowing that, you kind of assume that it does because that's how most things do
nowadays.
But so it's cool to understand that now and understand what Babylon is, and like see it in other scripture and stuff, and just get like, because now we have the whole picture, right, of what's happening in the Old Testament. I know where it's happening, what Babylon, what Persia is, like Medo Persia, and it was just cool. It was very cool. Now that I read it, and I can imagine it in my head better because I now know all the context and details and stuff. Yeah,
we had
quite all, but
we had. When did we study Esther? Like that would be October-ish.
What?
Esther, yeah. Esther, Nehemiah. Okay, so in October we studied Esther, Nehemiah, and then we during Christmas we watched the Sight and Sound movie for Esther. I don't know if you know what that is. It's like a live play type thing. Anyway, and so in this thing, I'm like, this is that king, and he does this thing, and then Haman rises, and he's from the X tribe that Saul was supposed to kill but didn't, and now he's rising, and I am like guessing from what I remember, and then the movie is playing it out. I'm like, this is so cool to see. Like I retained it, I got it. Yeah, it was really cool to see. So to go, the Bible is one kind of big story. You can see Jesus through all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if we did this last time, but prayer requests for you, please pray for Recharge.
Yes,
because Recharge is coming, and with that there is a higher workload, more responsibility, which usually means more stress, which shouldn't be because we should cast our cares upon the Lord.
But according to biblical counseling, stress is the outside stuff. It's like the pressure it puts on us, and that's not all bad.
No, because it shows you what's on the inside.
But when the pressure is on, and we don't have the right, like we're not Christ-centered, and we're not building our life on the right foundation, when that pressure comes on, it can crumble. But if we are building it on the right foundation, when the stress is on, then we don't have to crumble because Christ.
So pray that we would make Christ the center of our lives during this.
And we would not crumble over Recharge.
Yeah. So,
Well, I have a few different roles where I'm videographer, tech supervisor, and I still am in kitchen for my campus ministry. And so it's a lot.
You're a student too, right?
Yeah. And so like I have to be at praise team practice, and I have to do a bunch of stuff. And I've been struggling to find time for everything and like get focused on the right thing. So be praying for God's guidance and direction, specifically for me leading tech and in the areas that I'm doing. And then you probably use the same.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I'm leading the maintenance team. I don't know. We'll see what happens. That sounds so bad. But yeah, so I don't know, to represent Christ well and to not crumble and needing to rest when I need to rest because I don't like doing that.
Yeah.
But Jesus says to rest. So that's what I have
And
to
then
do.
if you could be praying for the campers who come, just that the God would prepare their hearts and that they would be ready for the harvest.
Yeah. And that I don't know, like there's like 3 churches on a waiting list with youth groups. And so that kind of hurts. Like these kids just want to hear and want to come. And we're like, oh, sorry, space is a thing. I just wish everybody could hear and enjoy it. So I don't know. Pray for them too, that they wouldn't be heartbroken. So yeah, I think that's it. Our list is done. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what time we're at. What time?
We got an hour and 21 minutes, so we're like hitting our goal. Let's go.
Okay, we're gonna do the sick zoom out thing like we did before.
Yeah. So, well, let's end it a little bit more.
Okay. More professionally.
So we're gonna try to record another one mid recharge. We'll cover
for second semester break.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about our discipleship projects.
Yeah, we're leaving that for the next episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks for tuning in to the 3rd episode of Bible Institute Banter
with Wilson and
Andrew. And we'll see you next time.
My bad. All right.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye.